Boxing's Throwdown. My name is Steve Johnson, my co-host Aurelio Martinez. We promised you guys that in our third segment, starting soon, I thought we were going to do it last week, but we're starting this week. We're going to have open discussion that would involve a lot of different sports. Could involve any sport in particular. Boxing is our thing, but I thought we'd start off this week talking about the situation involving the NFL since the season officially started Thursday night, but today, Sunday, everything really kicks off at the NFL. And the topic that everyone is talking about is kind of like the elephant in the room in some segments, but Colin Kaepernick. Aurelio, do you want me to start, or do you want to start?
Well, you can lead off. I mean, obviously this has been a hot topic, and we're going to get into this because it's our open discussion, and we just think that it needs to be addressed. I mean, obviously, what Colin has started, and it's kind of had this tidal wave effect where you have people supporting him, you have people not supporting him, you have black athletes down on him, you have black athletes good on him, and vice versa. It's just been a whole thing. So let's talk about our take.
Well, I think first of all, it's interesting, like you said, Colin having people supporting him, and Colin never asked anyone to support him. For those of you who might not be aware of Colin Kaepernick's thing, he decided to take a knee during the national anthem in his own form of a silent protest. Not disturbing anyone, not doing anything to disrupt the game, the pattern flow of the game at all. Kneeling, doing as a silent protest for the beating and killing of minority men across the country by police. Okay? I want all of you to remember one thing about this, how it all started. Colin Kaepernick had done this for 3 games, and nobody saw him, paid any attention to him except one reporter. After that reporter came and asked him what was going on, it took on its new life. Like I said, Colin has never asked anyone to support him. It was his own form of protest. He's never asked a dime from anyone. He's never came and said, send money to support me for this or that. No, as a matter of fact, he spent his own money, supporting the cause. But the thing is that he's making a stand, making a statement about what we all know is true. Whether you want to acknowledge it or not, it's true that there had been black men that had been dying, brown men that had been dying at the hands of police unnecessarily. That was his protest, was to call attention to that. Now, all these other things that have gone on in between now and then, people saying he's unpatriotic, I can understand because the flag is a hotbed for a lot of people. But for the people, Aurelio, that have said that, he needs to stay in his place. If he doesn't love this country, he can leave it and go back to where he came from. I've even had some people I know who said that, he's not even all black. What is his big thing? Because he was adopted by a white family. It's gotten way out of control, way crazy. But the bottom line is that the protest and what he was protesting still is there. And the black athletes that stand, that, actually Colin, if you remember, at the end of last season, he said, I made my point. I will no longer, kneel during the anthem. I made my point. I want to call attention to it. People have let that go, by the way. They forgot all about that. Except I've heard some people say, oh, yeah, now that he wants money, and that. But that's not with him. It's obviously this kid doesn't care about the money. For me, myself, because I'm 64 years old, I remember how it used to be frowned upon because our black athletes, or athletes period, would never take a stand, a social stand. For him to take a stand, is something that most of the veterans that I've talked to, some of them one-on-one, and you know who you are, they were of the same opinion that it was, unpatriotic, it was wrong. But then after talking about it and hearing, me talk about what I went through during my time of growing up in the civil rights movement as a black man, that this is what I wanted. I wanted some young kids to take a stand. So,
well, we can get into that revolutionized time of life that we both lived through. Mm-hmm. I was part of the Brown Berets. I was part of the Chicano Power, Corky Gonzalez movement. And what we did back in the days was to open the doors for our kids and grandkids and the rest of the minority folks out there. And if you remember, the Black Panthers and the Brown Berets and the movements, the Chicano movement and the black movement, they worked hand in hand because they shared some of the issues. Well, that's kind of been forgotten now. I mean, people are comfortable now, and unfortunately, it's not going to be until that rises, because the politicians out there, they understand one thing, and they understand violence. Okay, and I don't want to bring that back out, but it has to be addressed. Back in the movement in the Chicano Power days, okay. Politicians' houses were being blown up. Their cars were being blown up. Okay, that they understand. Okay, they're not going to be able to go and feed a bunch of rhetoric and promises and all this without being filled. You start putting the fear of life into them and to their families. Things change real quick. Okay, and Steve, it's coming to a point where it may come to a full circle. I mean, if it's going to change, and if it doesn't change, then that's what happens. We're here screaming and worried about deportation going on out there and being slapped on it, and we're actually being treated, and I say I'm talking about the Mexican people.
I'm talking about the black people
as second-class citizens now. Okay, we cannot voice our opinion. Colin, he's voicing his right to protest, and how people confuse that with disrespecting America is beyond me.
I don't get it either.
It's not even in the same plateau. You can't mix apples and oranges. Okay, now had he grabbed the flag, spit on it, stomped on it, burned it. Exactly. Then there would be an uproar, and I'd be right with him. Okay, but that's not what he's doing. He's protesting. He's executing his rights to bring it up a point, and it is a problem.
Yes,
it is a problem.
And because you're an immigrant or a family of immigrants that come here, and you say that Colin Kaepernick and those like him should be appreciative and keep their mouth shut. Well, that's because you haven't been here long enough to know what's going on. Like I said,
you can't.
I have to say this.
Can't keep.
I let it be known publicly that I would not have done that because, once again, my age. I remember, when me and some of my buddies were sitting there at radio when they had the draft was still instituted. We were on the second to last year of the draft, and when they didn't call our numbers, we were ecstatic because we didn't want to go to Vietnam. That was the bottom line. We didn't want to go. So we didn't have to go. So I'll never disrespect in any form the guys who had to go. And I know they feel that about how they feel about the flag. So that's why I say I don't do anything for the flag. You remember when we were in junior high and high school, there was a thing for a while where we stopped putting our hand across our heart for the flag. As Brown Beret and Black Panther supporters. No, we're not going to do that. But that was, once again, that's a silent protest. If Colin Kaepernick would have jumped up during the national anthem and screamed and hollered, I would have said, no, man, you need to calm down. The whole country, that's the way Martin Luther King did everything. Silent protest. Okay? Now, if you're going to start jumping on people about silent protests, guess what? Like Aurelio said, you can go back to the violence thing, and I don't think you want that.
Well, I don't know if this generation has it in them, to be honest with you, Steve. I see this generation and I question the fact that do they really have what it takes to put their life on the line for something they believe in?
I agree with you.
Back in our days, we did. I mean, many of our friends, my personal friends, died in the movement.
Mine too.
It's just, I question the fact that if they have strong enough now, or if they
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I think a lot of it has to do with the money that everyone makes now. They're so worried about losing their comfort of the money.
So that's true. We weren't making any money back then.
No, everybody now they're making good money and they're worried about losing that comfort. Like you said, it's going to be hard. Now, for the people that are going to say, well, Colin Kaepernick took that stand because he was on the downside of his career, that might be so. But guess what? He's set for life. He didn't have to worry about the money.
He don't have to worry about money.
He didn't have to say anything. He could have ridden off into the sunset and not say a word. He's taking a stand, and I support his right to do that. Okay?
I think everybody does. I think everyone supports every American's right to voice their opinion, regardless of what the topic is. If you agree with it or if you don't agree with it, I think we all can agree as Americans that each individual has the right to sound off in what he or she believes in. Okay?
But really, a part of it is that in Mexico, in China, in Russia, you can't say anything, right? Or you come up missing, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the things that the United States was founded on, was being able to be free, being able to voice your opinion without fear of retribution, okay? Now here we have retribution coming out. So my stand is that I support Colin Kaepernick.
You know, back in the 60s and the 70s, that's how it started. If you say something, the retribution would come in and they'd knock at your house, and before you know it, you're gone. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the movement came up. Corky Gonzalez brought the Chicano Powers, Angela Davis and the Black Panthers and all that. They rose up and they says, okay, well, they said retribution works both ways. Okay.
There you go.
It works both ways. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, once it started to work the opposite way, okay, then things started to calm down and things started to listen and things changed for the better of all minority people out there in this country. That's been lost. Like I said, mentioned that before. That's been lost. And minority folks, I don't care if you're Mexican, Indian, or my Indian, we're lost. We've been stripped of everything, so we don't even play a factor anymore.
Well, for you young black kids out there that don't know your history, you have every opportunity. Go look up the names. Go Google. H. Rap Brown, Eldridge Cleaver, Stokely Carmichael, Huey P. Newton, Angela Davis. Go look up those names and see what they did and how they had to take a stand and lost everything. That's one of the names that you should know is our Olympians that we had in '68.
Yep.
John Carlos. Those guys. They lost everything. Go Google them and see how they lost everything to take a stand for what they thought was right.
And I'm gonna leave it with this because our segment is, to show how this generation has changed and become so compliant and relaxed. Martin Luther King's son came out saying you got to give Trump a chance on this DACA thing, okay? Come on, man.
It's an encompassing thing now. It's snowballed, and now it's no longer about supporting, like I said, supporting Colin Kaepernick. It's about supporting
America.
It's supporting the values of America.
America. Because when I say supporting America, I'm not saying white, I'm not saying brown, I'm not saying black, I'm saying America.
That's right.
And that's what it's all about.
And with us being right on the verge of worldwide chaos, I think it's time to step up and say something. But anyway, that's our take on it. If you have your own take that you'd like to voice to us, we'll be glad to read them next week on Inside Boxing Throwdown. That's editor at Inside Boxing. We'll entertain all comments, and like I said,
some of them emails I'll save till next year.
I'll bring them up. As long as it's valid and doesn't get personal. I don't like the personal things. Don't get personal on me. Just make a general comment, your opinion. We value that, because that's what this is all about. Okay.
All right. That was our commentary. That was our open discussion. So till next week, Steve.
Put that soapbox over there until next week. All right. All right. Until next week. Hey, as usual.